Hey guys, coming at you from outer space. How you guys doing? How you feeling? Everything going all right? Drop me an email, let me know how you're doing. All right, in the meantime, let us pick up where we left off. Chapter 10, which is all about repetition, unity and variety, emphasis, and subordination. Just like we strive for a balance of unity in our own lives, artists strive for a balance of unity and visual interest in an artwork. They also aim to be honest to their story and to be art historically relevant. Miriam Schapiro employed art-making techniques that were typically considered women's work, such as sewing. She used fabric and patterns similar to quilt making. She made doll houses into fine art sculpture, and she pioneered the world of feminist art. Here, as you can see, is a painting made to emulate a weaving made out of fiber, for example. Artists use a lot of tricks to create unity. One is through the use of repetition. Which is the use of an element or object more than once in an artifact in order to structure a viewer's experience of that work. Take this painting by Rene Magritte. If there was just one guy falling from the sky, it would have a very different feeling. When we see the multitude, it appears as if the men are falling like rain. It creates a sense of motion, narrative, and excitement, whereas a singular figure might give us a totally different perception. Kiki Smith uses the repetition of dead crows on the floor for an effect that creates a balance between chaos and unity. There are 27 dead crows randomly placed on the floor, dead by some mysterious ailment. Because there's no order to how the crows have been displayed, we come away from the sculpture with a feeling of organized chaos that sparks the curious mind. In 1995, a pesticide poisoning led to the deaths of a flock of crows in New Jersey. She cast each crow in bronze to memorialize their death. In film, directors use repetition to reinforce a narrative or to create a running joke. So in that example, repetition was used in the way that the close-up was repeated over and over again, but also in the repetition of the exaggerated sounds. Let's check out repetition in another example where it's used to create a running joke.
This cyclical contour is the design for a visionary child's toy.
For kids.
This cynical world dismissed Norville Barnes as a raving nincompoop.
For kids.
That is, until these young nippers, wide-eyed and with a spring in their step, saw the hula hoop in action. How poignant, right? This dingus is the perfect metaphor for understanding humor. A joke, even if crafted by adults, is childlike in its invention.
For kids.
Now, if we were to ask you what technique made the hula hoop setup work, what would you reply?
It's,
The answer, of course, is repetition.
for kids.
Repetition also creates patterns. Designers create pattern images for industrial print items like fabrics, wallpaper, and carpeting. A designer like Carrie Ruby has to understand systems used to organize patterns through grids to create unity and still keep the pattern visually interesting. Patterns can become iconic, a status symbol, and represent the company. We can identify the designer of each bag here based on the patterns used. But globally and throughout history, we can see the use of pattern in textiles to associate people with class, heritage, and culture, such as this man's robe from Liberia. Fine artists can employ patterns in their work that has great commercial appeal. Murakami's artwork elevates pop art anime-inspired daisies into the gallery in this example. Or check out the use of repetition in this wooden radio. The dot pattern is repeated in the round knobs and the antenna ball. The curvilinear lines of the wood grain and the rounded edges of the frame of the box echo each other. The rectilinear body is echoed in the shape of the handle. Each element of design supports the other to create a pleasing and functional object. We looked at Lorna Simpson's piece, Easy to Remember, earlier when we looked at tempo. In this view, we can also see that she created a pattern-like image using repetition of the mouths. This creates a kind of visual rhythm. Rhythm in music can easily be described as the beat when you hear a song. In art, we refer to visual rhythm that usually comes in the form of repetition. Amos Ferguson is a self-taught artist from the Bahamas that incorporates visual rhythm into his works. If we look at this work, Beaded Hair, we can see the rhythm in the triangles and the braids of hair, which creates a sense of visual interest and moves our attention across the picture plane. Film directors, television producers, and their editors establish visual rhythm of shots and sequences that organize narrative materials that make sense at a pace that fits the content of the production. Live events give productions crews a daunting challenge of instantly selecting which shot to show us on screen. Producers and directors establish the rhythm of the game and ensure that we all see the aspects of the drama of the sport in what appears to be real time. An instant replay can show us the edited angle in slower motion so that we might better understand how the rules of the game have been played.
Yes. A super defensive play, but as you will see, Jerry Kramer blows him out of there. Yeah, that's a fine block.
Visual rhythm is used by Lorna Simpson as well in her video installation called Momentum. We can see the rhythm in the dancers performing in her artwork. Not all rhythm is exactly the same. El Anatsui creates artworks out of recycled materials like aluminum cans, bottle caps, and other discarded materials. Because his materials can be irregular, it creates a quality of unpredictability in his work and a sense of irregular rhythm. Trenton Doyle Hancock creates irregular rhythm in his works by using similar motifs, as in these two works that have trees as the subject matter. The tree's colors, scale, and details are all varied, but the unification of rhythm comes forth in the way that the trees are stylized. The complex composition undulates with variety of lively rhythm that keeps our visual interest. Gestalt psychology is a term to describe how viewers interpret the overall unity of an artwork. It's the general feeling that it evokes in the viewers, their response to the whole object. Unity, then, is the feeling that a composition holds together well visually and is designed to be experienced as a whole. One easy way to create a sense of unity in an artwork is through the use of monochrome, in other words, just using one color. But when we look at work like Malevich's Black Square, you're forced to question the balance between unity and boredom. But this piece was actually created to be a political commentary about life in Russia in the wake of the Russian Revolution. Through unity and variety, an artist can establish cohesiveness and unity within an artwork. Unity implies oneness and creates harmony. Too much unity, and an artwork could become monotonous, as is the case with some minimalist art. Having some variety balanced with the unity in an artwork creates visual interest that is sustaining for the viewer, such as in this work by Alan McCullum. The grid is the most straightforward way to organize the information in a pleasing and unified way. They provide clear architecture for viewers and designers. Agnes Martin used art making as a meditative practice. She used the grid as a basis for her work, which creates a sense of unity, even as the grids themselves differ from one another. A grid is utilized in Spencer Finch's commission for the 9/11 memorial, called Trying to Remember the Color of the Sky on That September Morning. He hand-painted 2,983 squares of paper, one square in a unique shade of blue for every person killed in the September 11th attacks and in the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center. Synecdoche by Korean-American artist Byron Kim is an ongoing project that now comprises more than 400 panels arranged in a grid. Using strangers, friends, family, neighbors, and fellow artists, Kim records each person's skin color in oil paint, mixed with a wax that he applies with a palette knife on a single 10 by 8 inch panel, a common size for portrait photography. Even one of the most famous artworks of all time, Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel painting, uses a grid as a formula for organization. Gustav Klimt embraced pattern through undulating grids of color and shape that joined with the organic human form. Like Miriam Shapiro, Faith Ringgold embraced techniques that were typically considered female and therefore not fine art. She tackled subject matter that swung a large pendulum from politically daring to everyday life in Harlem. How does Faith Ringgold use pattern, repetition, and variety in this piece called Tar Beach, one of her most famous artworks made of quilt?